Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, what a podcast we have for you. It's pre-season football podcast. The podcast is called Football Podcast. It's exactly what it says on the tin. It is a monster episode. If you are here for the football, you are probably thinking, yes, I need a mammoth football podcast to get me all the information I need to start the season. Well, guess what? We've got you covered, my friend. Don't you worry. Before we start this one, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave reviews where you can leave reviews. And obviously the big one there is share the podcast around. If you've got a football fan in your life, you know somebody who might know a guy who knows a guy who's a football fan, do send this podcast their way. They might even appreciate it, or who knows? Thank you for it. Anyway, we've got plenty to get through, so let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
Well. After a long, hot summer off, the boys are back in town, as I believe Aussie rockers AC/DC once said. No, it's not even them, is it? Is it Thin Lizzy? There we go. I know music. Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. We are back in all of our glory, in all our rock and roll glory. We're here to talk football once again. Obviously, before we dive into the ins and outs of Middlesbrough, Hull, and Nottingham Forest, I believe one of our brethren would like to say a few words about the, shall we say, missed opportunity this year from our three lions in white. Go on, Matt. I'll let you take the lead.
I wasn't going to say much other than, the football podcast has come home, unlike the European Championship. And you know that we're going to deliver every week.
I mean, we're saying this, obviously our listeners in Madrid, Barcelona, Seville are sat there going, but it did come home. We loved the result. What are you talking about?
I mean, those listeners have got a hell of a British accent, if that's what they're exactly saying.
Well, I imagine there'll be a pocket of Middlesbrough fans in Seville, mainly because they just felt so sorry for us after they tonked us 4-0 in the UEFA Cup final in 2006. So you never know. There might be an appetite for it in certain elements of the Spanish cities. But before we dive into the football, how are we, gents? Have we all had a lovely summer? I'd say no football, but obviously I think there was probably about 8 days where football wasn't on a TV screen over the course of the summer.
And then I went to watch football last week in the pre-season, so it's like it's still not proper football, but at least it was some football. I've never been. I quite enjoy pre-season games because they've got a different atmosphere to them. You know that it's not that important. You know the result doesn't matter, but you tend to see players that unless you go and see reserve football, you just never know about. So it's usually when you go and see a pre-season game that you see someone from the academy that someone might have been talking up on one of the forums, and it's the first time you've seen them in the flesh. It's like, yeah, maybe they might have something to bring to the first team this season. It's happened a couple of times with me at Borough, but sadly I didn't get to any of the pre-season games this season, so I can't make that judgment call.
I have genuinely never been to a pre-season game.
Interesting. I know for a fact that I took Stu to a Hartlepool pre-season game a number of years ago. I believe it was Newcastle.
It was. Wasn't it when one of the brothers that played up front, and it was the younger of the brother that was not as shit as the older brother?
Are you talking about the Amiobi brothers?
There we go.
Shola and Sammy.
I'm sure there was at least 2. I'm sure that game finished 4-0.
Yeah, it was something like that. I have a 4-0 or 3-1 to Newcastle or something like that. But I remember Michael Owen played the game and just thinking, this is ridiculous. Michael Owen is playing, one, football, because, after 2006 he very rarely did that. But that he was playing at Victoria Park. That was a strong one.
Have you and I not sampled some pre-season football?
Well, obviously me and Andy have been to a York City versus Hartlepool United pre-season game where, and I don't want to stress this too much, we bought both a pie and a supposedly cold beverage. And I think you can probably guess which one had the hotter temperature.
We had a nice hot Diet Coke and a lovely cold pie. It was... and what has to be the most spectacular timekeeping of any football game in history. They played 90 minutes. It was beautiful. They ignored the whole 8 minutes of injury time. They were just like, game's finished, go away. People were like, excuse me, sir. They were like, go.
I'm almost certain I've been to pre-season games where they've blown up early before. It's like, we've only played 85 minutes, but lads, this is dire. Should we just call it quits and just go home? Because we could play for 2 hours here and no one's fucking scoring. So.
Get there at half time. Turn the clocks off. Just turn the clocks off. They'll never know. We'll just run those clocks that they have like running the time in the corners. We'll just just no one will know.
Textbook. So yes, we are through the horrors of the pre-season, and we are officially at the point where we are on the cusp, the eve of the new season. Obviously not to date the podcast, but it starts this coming Friday, obviously when you'll hear this. And it starts with the launch of the new Sky Sports Plus channel, which apparently will bring, I believe, is it over 1,000 games they're advertising?
They're aiming for at least 20 games per league side, aren't they? Which is ambitious.
That's what I've said. Yeah, which is massively impressive. I mean, you'd maybe argue that each championship side that's not named Leeds United probably gets on TV maybe between 8-10 times a season.
Not even that.
Oh, you're far.
I'm just taking off the fact that there used to be a time when they started doing the Friday night games, Borough seemed to have maybe 8 or 9 out of the 12 or 15 that were done per season, it seemed.
But there'll be teams like Preston North End that nobody wants to see, so they'll probably get on less kind of thing than shooing the 30 league games this season.
The only reason that Rotherham got on TV last year was because they were guaranteed goals for the other team, whoever they were playing. So
yeah, it'd be terrible if your team, lost twice against Rotherham. Oh no, they didn't lose twice, but they didn't beat them. So we'll move on. So yes, pre-season's done. The season is upon us. So we'll do a little bit of a introduction or a reintroduction, as it were, to our teams, and then we'll go through our season-long predictions for those teams. So we'll start with the team that finished the lowest of our 3 teams, which just so happens to be my team, Middlesbrough. So last season they finished 8th in the Championship, and their top goal scorer was Emmanuel Latela, who started the season slow, got his injury against Chelsea in the semi-finals of the League Cup, and when he came back with a bang. 11 goals in his last 12 games in the Championship to register 17, I believe, in the Championship, but 18 in all competitions for the season. A fairly decent return for his first season in England, I would say. The Borough squad hasn't undergone as much of a transition as it has this time last year. 5 first-teamers leaving the team and 3, as of recording, coming in. Of the 5 that went out, 4 are on a permanent basis and 1 is on a season-long loan. Those are Paddy McNair. His contract expired and he's agreed a deal with San Diego FC,
which is a strange one, as apparently they have 5 registered players. So obviously they're an expansion team starting in, I believe, next year's MLS.
Yeah.
So he's gone to San Diego FC, but he's already agreed a short-term loan deal with West Bromwich Albion until January of this year. The other 2 left on a free transfer was goalkeepers Liam Roberts, who's joined Millwall, and Jamie Jones, who's also a goalkeeper, who has joined Salford City. There was the thought that Jones would stick around as the 4th choice goalkeeper this season, but he's obviously been offered first team football, or the likelihood of first team football at Salford, so he's taking the chance to go there. Hayden Coulson has left the club on a permanent basis. He's made his loan switch to Blackpool from the end of last season a permanent one. The fee was undisclosed, so we're not entirely sure how much it would be, but I'd imagine it would be somewhere in the couple of £100,000 worth rather than the millions, as I don't think Blackpool have that much money to their name. 3 players coming in. Oh no, sorry, there was one loan out. Sam Silvera has joined Portsmouth on a season-long loan, much to Andy's chagrin. But obviously when Portsmouth play Hull, I think we know where Andy will be putting his chits, in the Portsmouth basket, so to speak. The 3 players that have joined the club, as at time of recording, Luke Ayling, who was on loan from Leeds for the second half of the season, has joined on a permanent basis on a free transfer after his contract with those expired. They've also made a signing in the forward areas. Delano Bergzorg, fantastic name, has joined from Mainz 05, but again an undisclosed fee, but transfer marked are reporting it as £2.3 million. He can play anywhere along the front 3. Did have a loan spell at Huddersfield towards the end of last season, and he got a couple of goals, but the reports were mixed, apparently, so we'll have to see what happens there. And the final signing, or the final transfer in it so far, is central midfielder Aidan Morris, who's joined from Columbus Crew. He's an American international, or a USA international. Again, an undisclosed fee, but transfer marked reported it as around £3.2 million. I'd imagine the idea is that he would be the long-term replacement for Johnny Howson, but we'll wait and see what happens with that. Borough played 5 pre-season games. They went unbeaten in those pre-season games. They managed a 3-0 win against Bolton at a neutral venue, and then away victories against Gateshead, 1-0 there, a 5-3, bit of a crazy game win at Doncaster Rovers, then a 0-0 draw with Harrogate Town, which was a lot of youth team players were named in that squad, and the one home game they had in pre-season was a 1-0 win against Heerenveen of the Netherlands. Pre-season, obviously, you can't really take much from pre-season results. It's mainly just an idea of getting minutes into the legs of the players, testing out systems, new formations, things like that. But by the sounds of it, all very positive. And yeah, looks like they're ready and raring to go for the upcoming season. So what I've tasked the lads with is to pick their one to watch for the season for each of their respective teams. So obviously this is mine for the Borough. So I've gone with Finn Azaz. Obviously he was signed from Aston Villa in the January transfer window. It took him a while to get up to speed with the team. Quite slow when he first got in the team, but he did. We saw towards the end of the season a few glimpses of what he can bring to the team. Had scored quite a lot of goals on loan at Plymouth in the previous season and a half. I think he's one of those players that looks to sort of drop deep, pick the ball up, and then drive with it to sort of create the chances. I'm hoping and maybe tipping up that he gets into double figures for both assists and goals this season. So that would be my one to watch for the Borough. We're each going to be making our season-long predictions on where we think Borough will finish and who we think will be the top goal scorer. But before we go into that, we are just going to step away momentarily, take a short break, and come back to you with our season-long predictions for the Borough. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Recording in progress.
And just like that, we return. So, for the break, we were at a point where we were just saying that we needed to bring in our season-long predictions, specifically Middlesbrough based. So obviously we'll do the season-long predictions in the same way that we would the week-long predictions. As it's my team, I will give my prediction last, so as to not sway anyone's predictions. So, where do we think Middlesbrough will finish in the table this season? Let's go to Stu for his prediction first.
Okay, have discussed this obviously for an entire season. Borough had a bit of a slow start last year and then seemingly came good and only really missed out on the playoffs fairly late on. As you alluded to slightly earlier, not so turbulent in the transfer market, so keeping a good spine of the team together. So I've got Middlesbrough second.
Interesting. Any particular reason as to why, or do you want to elaborate?
I mean, I went through that bit before, Paul, if you weren't listening, but...
All right, fair enough.
I was trying to give you the big build and everything.
Fair enough. Matt, where have you got Borough finishing in your predictions?
I'll do the reverse. I've got them finishing 5th.
Ooh,
My reasons
why have you
are...
gone with that?
No reason, Matt, move on.
Just plucked a number out. Drew it out of my hat, that's why I was busy earlier. Same reasons as Stu, to be honest. I think that, I think if you played, if you played the Borough season last year 10 times over, that not the worst scenario, but would be in the kind of, I think that would be one of the worst cases, and you still finished 8th. So 8th. So I think, a season with if Latte last kind of plays a full season, or you get somebody else in, you've added some players that are going to add value to the squad. You haven't lost any value from the squad. Therefore, if you add in a couple, 2 or 3 more, if you like take a quality loan player in from the Premier League or something like that, or by Joe Worrell, that kind of thing. It'll be that 2 or 3 players that add to the team that mean they'll be able to push on and not have as bad a season as last season, even though he finished 8th.
Any particular reason? No, I'll move on. So we've got a 2nd from Stu, a 5th from Matt. Andy, where have you picked the Borough to finish this season?
Numero
1.
Oh no. I had them down, I'm pretty sure I had them down to finish first last season. Obviously, rooting for the Borough is nice and easy, as it has been over the last few years. But last season I was like, oh, come on, because I could see me being able to say, look, I predicted something, and it came to fruition. At least if they'd have got promotion, it would have been, nice. And they've sort of skirted with it, so I think it's time. I think it's time to go up, and then next year Hull will go up, and then boom.
It would be nice if we can. It would be nice if we could turn this into a Premier League based podcast.
It's got the potential to be a really miserable podcast, though.
Oh, well, is it possible for all of our teams to lose consistently? Yes, I believe is the answer.
Three perpetually sad faces, and me just completely oblivious. Like, hey, what's going on this week? What are we doing? I've got Borough down to win 4-0. What are we talking about here? Paul's like, yeah, just tie in the last bit of his noose. Like, yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, not the best. So, a 2nd, a 5th, and a 1st. I have agreed with one of you. I have gone for the Borough to finish in 5th place. I think I've fallen foul in the past on this podcast of being a little bit overly optimistic when it comes to the Borough's chances. What I will say is that this league has a very, very similar flavour to it of 2 seasons ago when Borough got into the playoffs and finished 4th, as in the 3 teams that promoted were relegated again. I don't think either of those 3 teams are as strong as they were the season they went up. So I don't think Burnley will be as strong. I don't think they'll run away with the league again. I don't think Luton, whilst Luton have retained a lot of their players, I think they could be the old lightning in a bottle. Are they going to be able to get that again? And Sheffield United, who can tell with that club? Because I know they've let a lot of players go, but obviously they have now signed quite a lot of players to replace them. So who knows when it comes to Sheffield United?
The Burnley manager is as well.
Oh yeah. Well, I believe they're referring to him as promotion specialist Scott Parker. I believe that they should probably be referring to him as lucky to keep getting jobs Scott Parker. Let's be honest.
How is specialist?
Yes, old Scotty boy. So I've gone cautiously optimistic for the 5th place. I do think they could finish higher than that, but this is Borough after all, and they will invariably find some way of shooting themselves in the foot at some point. So we've got 2 5ths, a 2nd and a 1st. Interesting. The next one we'll come to is the top goal scorer pick. I dare say there's a possibility that we may have 4 the exact same on this one. Let's go to Andy first off the bat for his top goal scorer pick for the Borough.
I'll give you a clue.
Aidan Morris. Very nice.
Correct.
Rappuccino, the new Italian striker, signed today.
Latte laugh for me, please.
Very nice. Yes. Would I be correct in assuming that both Stu and Matt have also picked Mr. Latte? In that case, lads, correctly said. All 4 of us have picked our favourite coffee to finish as top goal scorer for the Borough. It's like we said.
Can I just point out at this point in time, we have probably doomed that man to the single most horrific accident in human history.
Or he'll be
He
signed
already plays for Middlesbrough, so there's one.
Now that Matt just summed it up perfectly there. That's probably more likely is that he's definitely going to get sold before the transfer window shuts. The one thing that I would say that is probably unlikely with that is that his agent has come out and said that he's happy where he is, but then again, why wouldn't he say that? And apparently they've already named what they'd be willing to sell him at, which does seem like a ridiculous figure for a guy who's had arguably half a season in English football. So I think that they've said that they won't entertain any offers under £20 million. So again, for a guy who's had 6 months of football, a little bit over the top for me. So I'd be surprised if he's not still here come the end of August. But there is always the possibility that one of the Premier League clubs or someone on the continent panics and just splashes stupid money. I believe Stu has a point with that.
I think you're even being overly optimistic at your 6 months, because for a guy who only came over at January then
they did sign him in August. They signed him in the summer transfer window, but he was just slow to get going. So
he was injured a lot though, wasn't he, as well?
Yeah, well, like I said, he got injured he had a couple of niggly little injuries, and then he got his big injury against Chelsea in the semi-finals of the League Cup. And that put him out for about 2.5 months. And then obviously he must have eaten, every single protein that was going begging in his rehabilitation. He came back like an absolute unit and obviously smashed in 11 in 12 when he came back. So I think if he transfers that over the course of a 46-game season, yes, he's not going to play every game because who does at the Championship level? Because the grind is just relentless. It's pretty much Saturday, Tuesday for 75% of the season. And obviously, if they have another deep cup run in either of the two cups, you've got to factor those games in as well. So I think if you take that's 17 goals over what essentially was probably about 26 games, transpose that into a full season, you're looking at potentially between 20 and 30 goals this season. So I would snap your hand off for that. Obviously, as was covered on the podcast a couple of years ago, hadn't had a 20 goal a season striker for the best part of 35, 40 years. And then obviously they got one in Tuber. So it'd be nice if they don't have to wait another 30 years for a 20 goal a season striker. So that is the Middlesbrough predictions done and dusted. We're going to move to the team who is next in the sort of finishing perspective, which takes us over to Humberside for Mr. Stuart Woodmansey's Hull City. Do you want to take us through all the bits that I did for the borough?
Yeah, can do. I'm gonna start with the biggest piece of business, and that's the players that have left the club. You can probably describe our close season by using the word turbulent. It's not been amazing. Obviously, Liam Rossini got binned. Half of the players left that were on. Well, obviously, quite a lot were on loan. They've all gone back. And then the owner has either realised that we're absolutely broke, or had a meltdown, or somewhere in the middle of that, has found the balancing point. Because, strap yourselves in, ladies and gentlemen, this is the list of players leaving the club. So we've had Jacob Greaves, gone to Ipswich, reportedly £21.5 million. Jaden Philogene, gone to Aston Villa for reportedly £16 million. We bought him from Villa the year before for £5 million. So, tidy profit. You decide if we've become a selling club by the end of this list. Tufan has gone. Ozan Tufan. His is more of a family reasons thing. He's gone back to Turkey, so he's signed for Trabzonspor for around £2 million. Ryan Alsop, the goalkeeper, which the owner of the club publicly slaughtered and then threw the tiny pieces into a blender and then put them under the bus, has gone to Birmingham for a reported fee of £980,000. This all happened the day after his birthday, when Hull City put a public post out saying, "Happy birthday, Ryan Alsop," and then the very next day, off you go, son. Jason Lakilo, the man who some people / person on this podcast may have incorrectly tipped to be the one to watch last season, has gone to CSKA Sofia for around 400 grand. So that's, if you keep his goal, £400,000 per trick that he does. Traore has gone on a free to Turkish side Ahmed SK. Ryan Woods has gone to Exeter on a free. Greg Doherty has left as his contract expired. He's gone to Charlton on a free and walked straight into that side as captain, no less. Billy Sharp, short-term contract finished, and he's now at Doncaster. Matt Ingram has gone to Oxford United. So he's weirdly the only one of the transfers that Transfermarkt couldn't find a fee for. I mean, it's Matt Ingram. I can only assume that we've got at least a bag of Haribo for that one. Furlong has gone on a season-long loan to Wimbledon. Jones has gone on a season-long loan to Morecambe. And now the bit that Paul has been waiting for, the players that have left the club that don't have a club. Aaron Connolly is one of those.
Oh yeah, I was going to say you've got to leave the big ticket item to last.
I think the biggest ticket item on this list is Cyrus Christie. Personally, I'm surprised he hasn't got a club, but he is another one. Von Coville is on that list, as is the last one on the list is Robson, who's gone out with no club too. However, that is a mighty long list, and if you haven't been playing along, I'm sure you'll be expecting an equally long list of players in from all that money that we've raked in. No. So Ryan Giles, player that we had from Luton on loan last season, signed on a permanent for a reported 5.3 million. If you believe the articles in the Teesside press, he might already be on his way out of Hull. However, the owner has come out publicly twice since that, saying he's not going anywhere. They want him to be part of the leadership team, blah, 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 blah. So clearly, we'll see him in Middlesbrough colours at some point in the next 3 months. We've signed Dramé, because that made my night the other night when we went to see them play Fiorentina in pre-season. It was like, right back for Leeds previously, we've got him on a free. I was looking at it on the team sheet. Is it Dramé? And then they announced it in the stadium as Dramé, so that was it. In. We've signed Marvin Malem from Darmstadt 98 for an undisclosed fee. He's a German midfielder that played in the Bundesliga for a bit. Knows the current manager, Tim Walter. But apparently, the deal was done via text message pretty much, in the sense of, do you fancy playing for Hull? Yes, I do. I'm sure there was numbers on the end of that text message, but they didn't release that bit. And other players returning to the club from season-long loans that haven't been binned. Ryan Longman, one for Andy. Dogakan Sinek, who most people still haven't seen him. And Oscar Estepinian. Now, he was playing... He got loaned out to Metz in France. Then in January, he got recalled and sent back out to a Brazilian side, whose league started much later in the year, and then got recalled from his loan spell from the Brazilian team to come back to play for Hull. That guy is a unit, and he has had no pre-season for 2 seasons. He's had no break. So he should be sharp, but we'll see. So yeah, a huge long list of players out. Not a long list.
Let's hope he's better than Sharp, eh? You know, because he was shit that season.
Well, if he plays the first 3 games, he'll have had more minutes than Sharp got for the entire... Well, yeah, I know what you're thinking. That huge long list of players in will have really bolstered the results in pre-season. Paul referenced that pre-season results don't matter. And to a certain extent, I would agree with that. But when you've not won a pre-season game, it still feels a little bit raw. The worst of those was a Tuesday night away at Doncaster. Decided to field pretty much a youth team, mainly because when that game was played in real time, we had no fucking players. And we lost 4-0.
Youth team.
But yes, the highlight of the pre-season run was definitely, luckily for me, the Fiorentina game, where we went 2-0 down, just second goal scored just after half-time. Ryan Longman got subbed onto the pitch, of which I turned to my friend Rich and said, well, he's not going to change the game, is he? And he absolutely did. Made the run for the first goal, scored the second, so drew 2-2. It was nice to see an Italian side, obviously, that I'm not going to probably get to see for at least ever again. But they were, it was a decent game. It was fun to watch, that one. First half was a bit drab, but second half was good. But yeah, that's the ins and outs.
Very, very nice. So obviously we're doing the same for the Hull as we did for the Borough on the season-long predictions. So last season they finished 7th, and their top goal scorer was Jaden Philogene with 12. That's in all competitions. So obviously it's Hull's team. It's Stu's team, so he will give his predictions last. I'll jump in here and I'll go with, I think if we're to believe Mr. Chairman, and incomings will be happening before the end of the transfer window, I think that Hull might have a similar sort of situation to what Borough had last season. Might take a little bit of time for the team to gel, but I still think they'll have enough to finish in 9th position. Matt, what have you got down for Hull's season-long finish?
My prediction is based on the current state of play. And new manager, new philosophy, new players. So I've gone 16th. A lot of things have got to change quickly for me, for them to not. I don't think they'll go down, but I think it's going to be a season of, season of not turmoil as such, but not quite
a rebuild.
Strides. Yeah. But
just caveat that with a rebuild of their own doing, though.
Yes.
Well,
yeah. It's completely, and fully expect another one around January time as well, probably.
Andy?
So, I was in two camps on this one. One, I was like, Hull did reasonably well this season, but turmoil is I think what the situation is. I think the owners either being really ballsy or really stupid, and being really stupid makes you look really stupid. So I'm having to go along the lines of I think it's secretly ballsy. So I've gone with 8th. I don't think it's going to be quite as good. I think this much rebuild can't be a good thing for team morale, for gelling, for getting up and running early. I think they're going to struggle through early season games and things. But it's either genius or madness. So I was like, not quite as good as last season, but not terrible.
Okie dokie. I think that's a fair point. So we'll come to the horse himself, the Hull City supporter. As you can probably tell from his tone during the updates, he sounds like he's incredibly optimistic. So top of the pile.
Much like yourself, I agree with somebody else on the podcast. I've gone for Matt's prediction of 16. I think it's absolute insanity what is going on at our place at the moment. I think that it's... Well, I don't think it is ballsy, as Andy put it. I think it is just stupidity that he's going to rip the manager away from the team that turned fortunes around. I still get why he did it on his logic. Fine. But then don't gut the entire team either off the back of it. It's ridiculous. Like, his big thing was, I'm not going to stand in anybody's way if they want to leave. Well, it's not how you run a business, never mind a fucking football club. Like, if you've got good players that are contracted to you, at some point, you're going to have a tough decision about who's staying and who's there for the team. And if you let them all get away, like, what happens now? So we sign 10 new players, 8 of them have an amazing start to the season. Like, you know, hat tricks every other week, whatever it might be. Somebody comes knocking in January, we know that there's no barrier to them leaving, so what's the point? It's just, it's a very bizarre way to run a football club. So all the dreams that were instilled in people last year, I think could not be further away at the moment. And I'm really, as much as I've still got my season ticket, I'll still be going. I still really want them to do well. I really want to be proved wrong. But it's been a huge backward step for me so far from the last game of the season to this point now, before we're just about to start the next. I just can't see where this success that he keeps promising that's going to arrive is where it's coming from. I realised, Paul, in the predictions also, I had slightly overlooked my one to watch.
Well, I was going to come to that. I was going to say, before we do the top goal scorer, we'll just go back momentarily and we'll go for your one to watch for the season.
I'd like to caveat this with, it's probably going to be somebody that currently isn't contracted. Probably for both of those counts. But in terms of what we've got in the building, you can't really look any further than Abdush Omar, because he was an absolute revelation of the signing. He plays his heart out every game. He's got a right engine in him. If anything, his goal scoring or lack of last season maybe let him down. He's already found the net in pre-season with a decent free kick, and it might just be the thing that spurs him on. The only downside is that he did take a knock in the game against Reading pre-season last weekend, so he's probably a doubt to even play this week, which is a real shame. But in terms of the season and what we've currently got on deck, Omo is my listed man for that one.
Very nice. Well, we'll go on now to the top goal scorer picks, and it's actually quite nice that you've just said that, guys, as he is my pick to be the top goal scorer for Hull. Now, obviously, as we've said, as at time of recording, Hull's squad list has 2 registered forward players of Oscar Estepinian and Ryan Longman. So, obviously, like we said, there is going to be further incomings. Obviously, there's the youth team, etc., etc. So, for the time being, obviously, they'll have to look elsewhere for the goals, and I think he looked good last season. Obviously, his output wasn't as high, but I think he's had the time to sort of get acclimatised to the league, and I think you might see him kick on and be the next sort of talisman for the team, sort of take over from where maybe Tufan was that last season, as it were. So that my pick is Abdul Qadir Omur. Matt, who have you got was the top goal scorer for Hull?
I've taken the Wimps way out of this and gone with not at the club yet.
So, still to be signed.
Yeah.
I believe I did actually try and use this option last year for Borough, and was unceremoniously shot down because Chuba Akpong was still at the club, but he was highly linked with a move away, so that's why I didn't go for him. But I will put you down as.
I know it's the Wimps way out, but genuinely, I was like, it's a waste of my time saying a midfielder, because I just don't think maybe it will be a midfielder that scores goals, but I don't think the strike was officially at the club. I'll happily in 24 days, I'll happily tell you the strike.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is obviously we'll come back to these and we'll sort of have a little revised sort of not for everything, but for the season-long predictions. We'll have a revised one once the transfer window closes, but at the moment I'll leave that as a blank space for you. Andy, have you got a similar theory, or have you actually gone with one of the strikers that's in the building at the moment?
So, I've written a name down of the 2 I had to pick from. In that, well, this is all I've got to pick from, so this is what I'll go with. I think I would like a second go-round once players enter the building. So I will give you the name I've got written down, which is Longman. However, to say that I think that's going to be the season-long highest goal scorer for Hull, not really.
I think it's understandable. Stu, are you echoing a similar sort of theory, or are you backing Oscar to come back with a vengeance?
No, if we're having to nail the flag to the mast based on again what's currently on deck, I'd have gone very much like you with Abdush, but if I'm allowed to play that card, I'm gonna pull a bit of a Taylor Swift and blank space it. Covering all the bases, all the markets.
Yep. There's one for the youngsters. The youngsters in there. TBD blank space. Marvellous. So, I've gone with Check's notes. Abdul Qadir Omar. Andy's gone with Ryan Longman. And we've got 2 TBCs or TBDs, which will come at a later date. That's us done for Middlesbrough and Hull. So we're going to leave the Championship behind momentarily. We're going to jump up a division, which technically both myself and Stu would like to do in general with our clubs. But we can't do that until at least next season. So we were going to go to Nottingham Forest for their ins, outs, various dealings, their pre-season results. Matt's one to watch. But we are just going to, once again, step away momentarily to reinvigorate ourselves, and then we'll be coming right back at you with some Nottingham Forest-based nonsense. Give us 2 minutes.
Recording in progress.
Yes, indeed. And as we said before, just like AC/DC said, the boys are back in town. So, as we've said, we've left the Championship behind and we've gone up to the riches of the Premier League. Nottingham Forest are the podcast's Premier League representative, and as said before with Stu, do you have the details of the ins and outs at Forest, or do you want me to go through them? Oh, in that case, I'll turn it over to Mr. Matthew Moore.
Would you like the outs or the ins first?
The way I've always looked at it is, I'd rather do the outs first, because who cares about those players? They're no longer attached to the club. Fuck them.
Nice and clean too.
Yeah. And then we'll do the nice bit of the players coming in.
Yep.
So.
Right, okay. So, there has been a grand total of 19 players leave Forest this summer. So I'll start... where should we go? Let's go with the insignificant ones to start with. So, obviously, Reina, Tavares...
If you're listening, lads, he doesn't mean it. He's, no hard feelings.
We've got, Claudio Reina, Nuno Tavares, Monteal, Origi and Rivero all went back to their respective clubs where they came from on loan. The following players were released at the end of their contracts. Scott McKenna, who I'm shocked hasn't been picked up by somebody yet. Felipe retired. Mbe So, he was the guy that we bought for $2.5 million from PSG and barely played for Forest again. He's been released. Czech Kouyaté, which I think he'd been there as like a father figure, and I think a lot of players were gutted to see him go, but he was just a lot of money and wasn't going to get a game, so I think he's going somewhere to play. Wayne Hennessy has also left the club following the end of his contract. We have Lewis O'Brien has left on loan to LAFC. Apparently he liked his little jaunt to America and wants to go there again. That's with a view to stay there. Jonathan Panzo, another young defender that we bought, has gone back out on loan. I think, possibly, to Liam Rosenior's Strasbourg. Don't quote me on it.
I had Panzo down as going to Rio Ave.
Maybe Rio Ave. Yeah. I've got the wrong one there. Players that have left for money. Musa Niakate, 26 million to Lyon. Oriel Mangala, 20 million plus, because we already got a loan fee for him before, and there are add-ons in that thing. I think potentially a 10% sell-on clause. Big smile on my face. Everybody knows which one's coming next. Odysseus Vlachodimos for a reported £20 million to Newcastle. Apparently,
couldn't get a game at the City Ground, yet they've managed to rinse Newcastle for 20 million quid.
Strangely enough, the Premier League are looking into that one.
Can't think why.
I mean, they can't
Remo-
look too far, can they? Because there's the investors of Newcastle are involved in half of that deal. So unless they want to like lose fingers or something.
Well, and half of the players that had never played a game in the first team in their lives that were going for 20 million, and like it's a murky business. I'm kind of glad Forest got involved in it in a really hilarious way, because I'm going to say the next bit in a bit, which makes it even more hilarious. But yeah, and Forest is not. It's murky because he's not a £20 million player. He is an international player. He has played Champions League. He has hundreds of games played as opposed to minutes played, and not even 100 minutes played. Remo Freuler's transfer to Atlanta became permanent, and we sold Brandon Aguilera to Rio Ave. I suspect because that is one of the clubs owned by Mr. Marinakis and his group. So that was an undisclosed amount. I suspect it was inflated, possibly, because we paid $2 million for him, I think. Originally, it's undisclosed. Undisclosed always makes you think it was either not very much to hide it or way too much to hide it. Have I forgotten anybody that's left the club this summer? Oh yes, the leech. The leech has finally been removed from the club. Harry Arter, his contract has finally gone with his extra year because they stayed up. Like his contract kept on getting extended. It got extended by a year because they got promoted. Then it got extended by a year because they stayed up. And then each time apparently it had a bit of a kicker to make the price go right up. So I think he ended on 40 grand a week. So yes, the leech has gone. See you later. Players in. Marko Stamenic for 4.6 million from Sparta Prague, I want to say. Or no,
Red Star Belgrade.
Red Star Belgrade. It's one of them 90s Champions League European Cup play team, but was immediately loaned to Olympiacos, no doubt for some kind of fiddle for the books. That's all. Carlos Miguel signed from Corinthians for 4.3 million, but then there's been a lot of kind of, could it be 3.6? It's somewhere around that range. 6'8" goalkeeper. The man is massive. If you want to see a really funny picture, there's a Forest youth keeper who made his debut against Chesterfield coming on for him. It's just a funny picture that people need to go and see. The one that makes me smile again, Elliot Anderson from Newcastle United for 35 million. Oh, the Geordies have cried so much. And then when Vlakadimos was sent for 20 million, so therefore a net 15, even better. From what I've seen of his highlights as well, it pains me to say it, but they're right, he looks like a really good player. And for effectively 15 million, because everybody had to balance their books, well chuffed with that one. Nikola Milenkovic, 12 million from Fiorentina, kept Harry Kane quiet. People are saying that like it was an achievement in the Euros. It wasn't really, but still.
Harry Kane kept Harry Kane quiet. He's just like.
But a 6'5" defender, I'm all for that, considering how terrible we were for defending corners. Jota Silva from Victor Guimaraes for 7 million, plus 3 million if he plays 15 matches, and 3 million for some other really kind of arbitrary kind of thing that he's definitely going to do. And then last one, Eric Da Silva Moreira for 1.5 million from St. Pauli in Germany. He's an under-20s German wing-back, full-back. Has apparently really impressed during pre-season, which, hey, like I've done this for a while now. Straight into pre-season if everybody wants.
Absolutely. Have you got the results there? Because I've got them written down.
I do. You can make sure I've got this right. So Forest started their pre-season with a 3-0 win against Chesterfield at Chesterfield. Then they went on their warm weather kind of pre-season training to Spain and played Sunderland, drew 1 each. Then played Millwall, which was apparently a bad-tempered game, kind of tempers flared and stuff like that, but Forest came out 2-1 winners. They then played Elche, which is a Spanish second division side. I think they lost 1-0 on that one.
Yeah.
They came back and to play their only game at the City Ground for pre-season, which one of the reasons why it made it difficult for me to go this year. A 0-0 draw against Villarreal, and they round off their pre-season against Olympiacos on Friday, I think.
Very, very nice indeed. So that leaves us with who you are choosing as your one to watch for the season.
The one that I picked to watch, and really he shouldn't be, but his season was that poor last year that I'm hoping that he's going to kick on this year. I picked Ibrahim Sangare. Obviously, we signed him to much fanfare on the at the end of the transfer window in the summer, but he just never hit his straps. I think there was rumours of it. I think he came to us not having a great pre-season, a bit overweight, a bit injured, didn't really kick on. Then had some Africa Cup, either some World Cup qualifiers or Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers, went away, came back with a knock. Then went to the Africa Cup of Nations, came back with a knock and apparently malaria, which kind of obviously affects the respiratory system, so that's not always the best kind of thing. But from all reports, he's looked really sharp in pre-season, so I've gone with Ibrahim Sangare. And also a little cheeky mention. I mean, I could have said Morgan Gibbs-White, but he was he was the last year's player. Murillo, I don't think he's a one to watch because everybody's going to be watching him anyway. But a little one, I really like him, and he doesn't seem to get a fair shake at the Forest. I really like Nico Dominguez. He's an Argentinian midfielder. I really like his work rate. I really like his kind of effort. He's like for want of a better phrase, a more skillful Ryan Yates. So I mean, you don't want to kind of cast aspersions, but he's got that Italian, Argentinian midfielder mentality. If people understand that when I've said that, there we go. Kind of does something shitty, then kind of acts like they didn't do anything shitty, then does 10 more things shittier than that they did, and still get away with it. So Sangare is my main one, but also Nico Dominguez.
Lovely stuff. So that just leaves us with our Nottingham Forest season-long predictions. Obviously, it's Matt's team, so he will give his predictions last. I'll jump in here again. I have gone for Nottingham Forest to finish in 16th place in the Premier League. I think that of the 3 teams that are coming up, there's question marks over all 3 of them. There's still no guarantee that Leicester are going to start the season without a points deduction. Ipswich are obviously new to the division, and Southampton don't seem to have strengthened. So I think they'll be stronger than all 3 of those. And I have question marks over another team that I'm going to leave for now, because we'll come on to that when we do our Premier League-based predictions later on. Andy, what have you gone for the season-long finish for Forest?
So I was thinking along the lines of Forest have had a bit of time in the Premier League now. They've been able to sort of, in theory, get a bit more bedded, a bit more stable. Obviously, they've had a lot of players out, some players in, sort of thing. So I've gone with the 12th finish for Forest this season.
Very nice. You?
I have gone one higher than you. I've gone 15th.
Very nice. Which leaves the Forest fan himself. Are you going optimistic? Are we going a little bit downbeat? Where are we sort of like where we find ourselves?
When I started doing the research for this, I started optimistic, and my original prediction was the same as Andy's. I started at 12th. I thought, we've added to the squad. We haven't lost the big players that we wanted, and then I just kind of slowly talked myself out of it, and I've gone with 14th though. 14th is my prediction. I don't know if I've got the same team as you, but I have several teams in between bottom and where Forest are. But there's a couple of clubs that I'm like, I'm not sure about your season this year. So 14th for me.
Very nice. So 12th for Andy, 14th for Matt, 15th for Stu, 16th for myself. All we need now is a top goal scorer. Let's go to Andy first for the top goal scorer pick.
I imagine at this point in time it's not going to surprise anybody because it's been a long time since I've had the opportunity to say Wood. Honestly, I have to hold my hands up and say it was very difficult to get names like the Hull situation. You check it like websites and it's like, is this up to date or is this as
there's only 2 strikers at the club.
So I was a bit like, I'll just use the opportunity to say Wood as many times as possible on this podcast. Wood.
I like it. Stu?
On the premise of, as Matt pointed out, not too many in the door, I've had to drop back to somebody who probably should have scored a few more goals, but seemingly there's a bit of interest in, so whether or not he'll stay or not. But I don't know, I've gone Hudson-Odoi.
Okay. I agree with Stu. I have also gone for Callum Hudson-Odoi to be the top goal scorer. Again, I don't know if it's because he seems to have had a good pre-season, I think. He seems to be in the reports that he's looked like sharp and lively. Obviously,
his finish against Millwall was class.
Yeah.
Dig that out.
He's had the sort of the bedding in period of last season, so I'd imagine in his own sort of like head, he'll probably want to kick on the season, get a few more goals, get a few more assists, and with the greatest of respect, potentially get himself a bigger club move. Potentially. Who have you gone for then, as a supporter?
I've got 2 answers to this. Ooh. I'll give the official answer and then I'll give you the asterisks after it.
Okay.
I've gone for Taiwo.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm hoping that he's had, I think, for want of a better phrase, I think Nuno really fucked him last year. He was coming back from that injury and he played him, 90 odd minutes against Man United in an FA Cup game, which was absolutely pointless. And he was never the same again since. He rushed him back. It could have given him another couple of weeks. It wouldn't have made any difference. It didn't end up making any difference because he wasn't fit enough to play. So he came back. I think he played a few minutes against Burnley at the end of the season. He's played against Villa. He got 15 minutes against Villarreal on last Friday. So I don't think he's going to start the season. I think Chris Wood will start the season. But I think once Taiwo's up and running, and we see Taiwo of the end of the previous season, fingers crossed big time. It'll be Taiwo. That being said, my prediction is Taiwo. What I actually think is, I don't think the striker that actually scores the most goals for Forest is in the club. I think we will go and spend over $1 million on a player in the next 3 weeks. I think we'll go and buy a striker that we know is reliable.
Is there anyone that's been linked, or is there any sort of names that have been thrown out there? Or?
Well, annoyingly, they were linked to the guy who's just gone to West Ham. I'm glad we haven't bought him because he's not like an investment. He's 31. You know, the 42-year-old man saying that a 31-year-old's too old for football is ironic. But I don't think him. I think Chelsea have bought the other one that we were linked to earlier on in the season, or they're looking to, the Atletico Madrid player. I think there's some kind of swap going on with Conor Gallagher and him. So I think that's one. But there's, as always, we're linked to someone from South America, but also they're linked to a Feyenoord striker who scored 26 goals last year. Now, I'm always a bit suspicious about strikers that come across from the Dutch league because it doesn't always translate. But
don't know what you're talking about there. I don't think any of our clubs have been burnt by that before.
I think all of us have definitely been burned by a Dutch. Somebody comes from the Dutch league.
If you ask Tuber, it works the other way as well.
Yeah, I mean, Forest keep on getting linked to him. Absolutely not for the amount of money Ajax are asking for. So yeah, I don't think he's in the club. I don't think the player is in the club yet. But the striker that they're linked to from Feyenoord seems to fit the bill as to what they want. But we'll see. Fingers crossed for Taiwo because I absolutely love him when he's up and running and causing absolute havoc.
Well, like you said, the way that he finished the season before the one that's just got. Was he something like 6 in 6? It was
I think it was even more than that. It was unbelievable that run.
And he obviously started last season with a goal against Arsenal.
Yeah.
So he was clearly ready to go, and his body just let him down, sadly. So fingers crossed he can.
I think it was like Man United a couple of games later as well. You absolutely terrorised them when it was him, Hudson-Odoi, and Elanga. It was just fast and aggressive and physical.
Power, presence. He's all there. Like he is. When he's fit, he's the perfect striker.
Yeah.
But it's just the problem is keeping fit. So that is all of our personal teams' predictions for the season. We've now got season-long predictions for both the Championship and the Premier League. So we've each picked basically who we think is going to win, who we think is going to come runner-up, who's going to win the playoffs, the 3 teams that are going to go down, and the top goal scorer. Slightly different from the Premier League. Obviously, there's no second place. It's just who's going to win, who's going to come in the top 4, 3 relegated sides, top goal scorer. So we'll make a start with the Championship season-long predictions. Who has everyone got down to win the division? I'll start us off. It's not going to be a popular pick, but I think it makes the most sense. I have gone with Leeds.
I didn't like writing it down, but I had to.
How do you kick people off these things again? Sorry, just asking for a friend. What? Does anyone know?
Yeah, you're gonna need to kick 2 people off because I've just seen Stu raise his hand. So Stu is also going for Leeds to win the division.
You can really go off some people, can't you?
I can't say out loud. I can't bring myself to say those words out loud, so I'm pleased that you went for that, Paul.
Yeah, obviously, we know from earlier on that Andy has picked Middlesbrough to win the division, which just leaves us with Matt.
You can write an L down in mine.
Oh, get fucked.
But I've gone with Luton.
What?
I think they've kept a good chunk of their Premier League team, and some of those players are good. I think there's, I think they might hit the ground running. And if they hit the ground running quickly enough, and they've got money, a bit of money anyway, so they can invest in the squad either quickly or at Christmas time. So that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a good point. So, second place, Stu had gone for the Borough. So I'll just write that one in. I'm intrigued as to who Andy has got as his second place team.
Now, I want to take this opportunity to say I find it very difficult to do these parts of these bits of the predictions. I think at one point, for one of the divisions, I had 6 different tabs open trying to like piece it together. I have Norwich City.
That is a big call. They have literally just sold their best player.
That sounds about right.
But there's decent players there, and let's be honest, it wouldn't surprise you to see Norwich up there because they are a decent standard championship outfit. Matt, who have you gone for finishing in second? Oh dear. I've gone a little bit left field. I've gone for Coventry to finally come over the sort of the crest of the hill, as it were, and get that second automatic spot. We're starting to see a little bit of a pattern of teams that haven't been in the Premier League for about 15 to 20 years returning to the Premier League. So obviously, Forest were technically I suppose Leeds were the ones who kicked it off. Then in like subsequent years, we've had Forest get back there. We've had Ipswich last season. Coventry have been knocking on the door for the past couple of seasons, obviously knocked us out of the playoffs 2 seasons ago. And I think they've kept the majority of their team together and they've added decently. So I think they could be the outside bet for a second place finish. Who do we think will win the playoffs? Now, obviously, myself and Matt both had Borough to finish in 5th spot. So I've gone with the optimistic shout of Borough to win the playoffs. So shoot me, it definitely won't happen, but I've got Borough down to win the playoffs.
I've also gone for a North East team. I've just gone with Sunderland.
Interesting. No comment. No comment from this particular part of the podcast. Stu?
Sunderland were in my debates for whether or not I could put them as a cheeky bottom 3 because of how badly their close season has gone. I've actually gone with Andy's earlier answer. I've gone with Norwich for the playoffs.
Okay. Andy, round us out. Who have you got as your playoff team?
I put this one down just for you, sir. I have the Titty Bar itself, Bristol City.
I'll tell you something, that's not a terrible shout because they are putting together a nice little team. Obviously, that could get scuppered if their one of their strikers goes to either my team or indeed Mr. Woodmansey's team and takes a large chunk of their goals away. But yeah, I think they'll be in the top half at least, so not a terrible shout. I'll go to the top goal scorer and then we'll come back for the 3 relegated teams. I feel there might be a thread, there might be a theme that we can all enjoy on the 3 relegated teams. I haven't gone for Latte Laugh for the top goal scorer in the division. I have gone for Jorginho Rutter at Leeds. Obviously, they sold Somerville to West Ham, so someone's going to have to step up and take the brunt of the goal scoring chalice, as it were, for Leeds. Bamford, you just can't guarantee how many games he's going to be fit for. So I think Rutter is the one who will step up and take the spot. Stu?
I have gone for Latte Laugh, so there you go. Nice and easy, straight in.
Does anyone else have the same answer? Matt does not. I was convinced that Matt had gone for him as his top goal scorer for the league. Who have you gone for?
I've gone for Adebayo. I've just gone all in on Luton.
You really have. And Andy?
At this point in time, I am terrified of my pick because I'm like, nobody else said this person. What's gone wrong? Sammy Szmodics?
Szmodics. So obviously, Sammy Szmodics was the division's top goal scorer last year. Still at Blackburn as at time of recording. I think there is rumours that he may be sold, but if he's still there come the end of the transfer window, there's nothing to say that he can't repeat his heroics of last year. But we'll see. We are just going to briefly step away just before we give our 3 relegated sides, but we will be back very shortly to give you the 3 sides we feel we're going down from the Championship this season. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Recording in progress.
And just like that, we continue. So, 3 relegated sides from the Championship. I'll just jump straight in here. I've gone for 2 of the 3 promoted sides and an outsider. I've gone for Oxford. Don't think they'll be strong enough. Derby, because, let's be honest, it's Derby. No one needs to see them in the Championship. And I've gone for Watford. They sound like they're in absolute turmoil. Can't keep any of their players. They're signing old players that used to play for them that are now in their mid-30s. Inexperienced manager could spell disaster. Stu, who have you got for your 3?
Paul obviously forgetting that Watford will have changed their manager 14 times by Christmas. I haven't necessarily gone for the obvious one because I haven't picked Derby. I've gone for one of the promoted sides in Oxford, obviously knowing that Matt Ingram's gone there to help us on a secret mission from the inside to take them down. I've gone for possibly a surprise one in QPR because the way that they finished last season, they were absolutely dreadful. And I mean, how could you not? Another man that's gone to a club on a mission to absolutely obliterate that team and his own managerial career. So I've gone for Plymouth to be dragged down by Wayne Rooney.
I think they might just about survive. Matt?
Ditto.
Well,
Well,
I think
Oxford,
wow.
QPR and Plymouth.
Yep. I went Oxford because I looked at the 3 promoted sides. I was like, all right, yeah, the other 2 will probably have enough money and enough. The annoying thing is that Paul Warne is a good manager, so if he can get decent players in at Derby, they'll be fine. So I just thought Oxford, like, yeah, not enough experience. Don't seem to have got many people through the door. QPR, same reasons as Stu. They just seem shit. Just like right at the end of the season. And Plymouth, Wayne Rooney is a dog shit manager, and the sooner that someone realises it, the better. Well, actually, can he just go and do like the shit job at 3 or 4 other clubs? I've got a list. But
Fair enough.
as soon as somebody realises it and he doesn't end up at, it's this eternal thing of, oh, he's a good manager. Where has he been a good manager? Like at Derby when he got a load of Man United loan players in. I'm pretty sure I could have managed that side.
Well, I think that's it.
Also, he had Rossignol as his backup. When Rossignol left, it went to shit. He needs to take an assistant's job in, I don't know, Strasbourg or something.
Andy, who are your 3 picks?
Well,
Who are your 2 picks alongside Leeds?
going from not feeling overly confident with my top goal scorer, I have Plymouth Argyle, Oxford, and Derby.
Sorry, Oxford. We don't like your chances. Is basically what we're saying as a podcast. So there you have it. Oxford across the board for everyone. Plymouth for 3 out of the 4 of us. Derby for 2 out of the 4 of us. QPR for 2 out of the 4 of us, and Watford. So, not looking good. We move to the Premier League, where we'll do roughly the same. Who do we all think is going to win the league? Do I have 3 shouts of Manchester City? Okay, just me that's gone for Arsenal then. The only reason I've gone for it is that there's still this massive cloud hanging over them with these 115 charges, and whether or not they're going to end up with sanctions or points deductions, I think it might come to a head this season.
No, because they'll let it go because they'll do the big fairy tale send off for Pep, and then it'll be like 6 months later when all that ship sailed, and it'll be like, oh, actually, lads, we're fucked up here, and then they'll wait.
So what they'll do is they'll wait until they bring in their new manager, the erstwhile Mr. Wayne Rooney of Plymouth after his Plymouth heroics.
Jurgen Klopp will come out of retirement for it.
Well, so I'm the only one who's gone for Arsenal. Everyone else has gone for Man City. Surprise, surprise. Who are the other three teams that people think will comprise the top four? So, surprise, surprise, I have gone for Man City in there. But I've also gone for Tottenham to finish in third and Man United to get fourth.
I've gone Arsenal, Liverpool, and Manchester United.
I think Mr. Slot will struggle, personally.
Name a new manager that's been chucked into a big club that's not got. I mean, him, but the one. At first, I thought Chelsea, but that guy has not got a chance.
No way, no way. Stu?
I have gone for Arsenal second, Villa for third, and Liverpool for fourth.
Interesting. I think Villa are going to be massively stretched with the Champions League games. Andy? Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Me and Matt almost had the same. I've gone Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man United.
In that order?
Yeah.
So Liverpool second.
Mm-hmm.
Then Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal third and United.
United. Lovely stuff. The three relegated sides. I may have alluded to this earlier. I've got two of the teams that have come up from the Championship. I've gone for Southampton and Ipswich. Don't think Southampton have strengthened enough. Ipswich, I think, have just signed an awful lot of Championship players, and that's never a good sign. The one that I've got as the sort of the outlier, I've gone for Brighton. I think they've taken a massive risk by putting this guy in charge, who's only 31, has never managed outside of Germany before, and I reckon they can keep doing these. They can keep doing these things where they just keep putting these new like hipster sort of like up and coming managers in place. One of them's going to bite them in the arse, and I reckon it's this one. I might be wrong. They'll probably end up finishing in the top four, but yeah, I just think Brighton could be onto a bit of a hiding in nothing, personally. Andy, who have you picked as your three to go down?
I honestly thought we had the same picks for a second, because you went brr, and I was like, ooh. I have Southampton, Ipswich Town, and Brentford.
Nice. I think they're another one that could be on the sort of slide and potentially will get found out eventually. Matt?
I've gone from bottom upwards. Ipswich, Southampton, and Wolves.
See, you picked Wolves last season as well.
Did I?
Yeah.
I hate Gary O'Neill.
Yeah, we're definitely on that sort of wavelength together. What a prick. Stu?
I have gone very simply for the three teams that came up, because Leicester have got that whole thing about a potential. They got points deduction to start with,
Yeah,
so they're behind.
But it's not been agreed yet what it's going to be.
Well, I think. I mean, so what are they going to do? They're going to just Man City their way out of it, like.
Well, I was listening to it the other day, and apparently last season they didn't get the points deduction because they said, well, it's because, but we weren't in the Championship last year. So are they going to go? And then apparently they were going to go when they in the Premier League. They go, yeah, but you didn't hand us our sanction when we were in the Premier League. So where the fuck were you? So apparently you were nowhere. Leicester ceased to exist when they were spending money that they didn't have. Honestly, what a load of shower of shit.
Plus, as well, it was their manager that got ripped out to go to Chelsea, wasn't it? So
the rest, yeah.
I'm not hopeful for them. I think they're sort of behind the eight ball a little bit before they start. So I've got Leicester as bottom, then Southampton, then Ipswich.
You've got old Steve Coops in.
Yeah, that is the only thing that I was thinking.
That's what made me pause. I mean, I'd forgotten about the point deduction.
Okay, so that just leaves us with who we believe will be the top goal scorer in the league. Do I have 3 shouts for Erling Haaland? I've done it again. I've managed to get myself on an island. What am I doing? I don't know. There's just... I feel like we saw last season that he had a bit of a regression. And again, the Man City charges thing, just somewhere in the back of my head just making me think that they're not going to have a good season. I've gone for Saka at Arsenal. They don't have a decent sort of central striker. He's the penalty taker, and he always seems to score. So I reckon we could be in for a 20 or 30 goal a season sort of season for him.
I don't think Haaland will see last season as regression. I think from his mentality towards goal scoring, I think he'll just seen it. I had a bit of a rest last year comparatively. I can't see it being Saka. I'm sorry. I think he's too petulant. No. I think he's a whiny little shit.
Yeah,
good player, but he needs to spend more time on his feet.
Yeah, and I think I've gone a bit left field with it. To be fair, and I don't really know if I believe it myself, but I had to pick someone from Arsenal, and I was never picking fucking Gabriel Jesus. So
Martinelli.
Yeah, he was another one that I considered, but he doesn't take penalties. So
no.
Whereas Saka does. So that is all of our season-long predictions. But this brings us to the first of our weekly predictions. So week 1, obviously no Nottingham Forest games, as the Premier League doesn't start till the week after next week, because that's when football will truly be back. If you take notice of what all the papers say. So our first game in week 1 sees Hull City taking on technically one of Andy's teams, Bristol City. Obviously Stu's team, he will go last. I've gone for Hull to start the season with a 1-1 draw. Gone for goals for Omer and Wells. Now obviously, with the news that Stu said earlier, Omer took a bit of a knock in the last pre-season game. I'm hoping that he is fit, obviously, as I've picked him to score. Matt, what have you got down for Hull versus Bristol City?
I'm really sorry, I've gone dead boring. I've gone 0-0.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Cagey start to the season. Andy?
Starters to go on, let's face it. 1-0 to Hull. Longman to score.
I like it. It's consistent. It's in keeping with how he does his business. Stu, first things first, are we going?
Yeah. To the newly minted 12:30 kickoffs, thanks to the aforementioned Sky Sports Plus. I suppose we'll get our afternoons back, but Jesus Christ, 3 o'clock kickoff, man, come on. It's first day of the season. I am also going to start, as I mean to go on the current state of the team, and say it will be a 2-0 defeat for Hull City, with goals from Mehmeti and Cornick for Bristol. It's alright, this pre-season business, where some of the tackles are a little bit lighter and they can maybe get away with skipping around a few players, but when the championship starts and the team will start to get depleted from week 1 as somebody inevitably goes snapping somebody in half, until we start getting some bodies in the door, you might spot a pattern to my prediction.
The optimism lasted all of 0 games. Our second game sees my lot, Middlesbrough, taking on Swansea City. So obviously my team, I will give my prediction last. So we'll reverse it. Stu, what have you got down for Borough versus Swansea?
I've gone 1-1.
Okay. Goal scorers?
Well, obviously, Latte will have to start his charge to the Golden Boot.
Of course.
Or the transfer market, whichever way we discover after what was revealed earlier. And for Swansea, I've got Grimes.
Matt Grimy Grimes. Andy?
So I've got Borough to win 2-0.
Interesting.
I got Latte to score. I've put 4s down.
No, not fit to start the season.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to say. Do I think I'm gonna get the 2s out? Yeah, put Latte down for 2. He needs to get them goals in early, I think.
Well, as we've discussed, he's got to be the top goal scorer. So
How do you get top goal scorer without scoring goals? Come on.
Exactly, Matt.
I've gone for a 2-1 Borough win. Latte Laugh
Go.
and a Zaz.
Yep.
And for Swansea, Vipotnik.
Sorry.
Vipotnik.
It's the bad guy from Sonic.
Yep, like Dr. Robotnik. Dr. Robotnik. Vipotink. I mean,
Yep.
if you would have looked at the Swansea squad, you could have picked it out straight away.
I too have gone with a 2-0 win, and I've gone for Latte Laugh and Azaz as the goal scorers. Our second games of the week are both EFL Cup games, and I believe, again, due to the new Sky Sports Plus, both of these games will be available on that channel. However, the Middlesbrough against Leeds game, or the Leeds versus Middlesbrough game, will be actually on Sky Sports Football full channel. The first of the games sees Hull City taking on Sheffield Wednesday. I've gone for a 1-0 Hull win with Longman to score the goal. Matt?
I have unfortunately gone for a Sheffield Wednesday 2-1 win.
Goal scorers?
Estepinian for Hull.
Yeah.
And then Windass and Lowe for Sheffield Wednesday.
Andy?
1-0 Hull win. Changing it up with the goal scorer, Estepinian.
Very, very nice. Stu, going?
So we'll continue my theme. We will lose 2-0 at home, and we'll be embarrassed by Musaba and obviously Windass.
Not technically old boy rule, but old dad rule, I suppose. And as said before,
Dad rule.
yeah,
That's what that's called.
yeah. As previously discussed, our final game of the week sees Leeds United taking on my boys Middlesbrough. As we discussed, is obviously again live on the Telebox. Matt, what have you got down for Leeds Borough?
I've gone for a Leeds 2-1 win.
Boo! Goal scorers?
Bamford
Yeah.
and Pirro. I've got these
Yeah.
Leeds. I was like, damn it, I should have made him my top scorer for the league.
Yeah.
And then Jones for Borough.
Stu?
Almost. But I've just got a 1-0 Leeds win with Hero.
Andy?
I find it interesting that you came to me second to last. It's almost like you already knew what was coming. So, Borough to win 5-0. I've got Lai down for 2. I've got Jones down for 2. And I hope this guy's going to get in the game. And I hope this guy's going to score. And then continue to score for the rest of the season. So that I can say, Bergzorg.
Sadly, I agree with Stu and Matt. I think given our exploits in the Cup last season, I think we're going to have an early exit this time around, unfortunately. Leeds to win 2-1, same as Matt. I've gone for James and Bamford to score for Leeds, and Bergzorg to score for the Borough. That, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of this mammoth first podcast of the season. Apologies it was so long, but obviously we had a lot to get through in relation to our teams in the off-season and forthcoming.
thank you as always for tuning in and on YouTube. Oh, actually, Matt has something he'd like to say.
Dead quick. If anybody wants us to reverse curse their strikers, send us money, because if you go back about 6 months, we all sat there and said Mateta is absolute crap, and it looks like he's about to fire France to an Olympic gold medal. So any monies that wants to be sent our way to curse or reverse curse your striker, we will gladly do that on a weekly basis. We'll do Cursed Striker of the Week.
Just unbelievable. I've always thought that Longman fella is wank.
Absolute terrible. Tyrone Wanyu's absolute sick note, shocking.
It is ridiculous how much he's kicked on, literally since we said he was wank.
You can date it by when Forest played Palace at home. So that week we all sat there and went, yeah, Matete, he could hit a barn door with banjo, that lad. And then proceeded to be one of the hottest properties in Europe and possibly leaving Palace in the next few weeks. Hilarious. But yeah, sense cash.
Crazy. Yes, we'll put the bank details in the comments on YouTube. Obviously, if you are watching us on YouTube, send a like, follow, subscribe to the channel, CookieCast channel. We'll be bringing you lots more football content throughout the course of the season, and obviously there's other podcasts on the channel as well. Some wrestling stuff on there, some F1 stuff on there, some NFL stuff to come later in the year. Just all round generic nonsense. It's a wonderful place to be. Thank you as always for tuning in this week. Join us again next week where we'll go through those particular 4 games and we'll bring Forest back into the fold as they start their Premier League season. But until then, take care of yourselves, look after one another, and we'll see you next week back here on the CookieCast Podcast Network. Tatty bye for now.
So there we go. An absolute monster of a podcast. But I think you can agree, you could not get much more information around the football, where to go, where to look, what to see, all of that goodness. So if you made it this far, thank you very much. And, well, you know the deal at this point. Like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And do check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There you can look for our social media links, get all our social medias, and click the email button. Send us an email. Tell us who you support. How about that? That is it for this one, but many more to come. But until then, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.